Hi everyone. I'm Tracy. I'm a designer with the Minty Fresh Squad, and today we're going to talk about the product that we developed. We named it Untether, and it's a tool that helps users tame imposter syndrome while job hunting. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's what to expect while we're presenting. We're going to start out by talking about the problem space and then how we came up with our idea for the product. And then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the development process. Then we'll demonstrate the product and then talk about what we learned from the past 13 weeks. Okay, so what's the problem here? Imposter syndrome. In case you're not familiar with it, imposter syndrome is a form of self-doubt when a person questions their abilities even though they're actually competent. They're afraid of being exposed as a fraud. So because imposter syndrome can be such a broad problem, we created this problem statement that you see here on the slide to help focus our ideation process. And we focused our efforts on helping a career transitioner on the job hunt. Okay, and before we really dived into ideation, we came up with a bunch of how might we questions, and our team decided that the 3 questions you see here were the best for helping us figure out our scope and our target audience.
Hi everyone, my name is Carly. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a product manager on the Minty Fresh team. So let's talk about stats. As we worked through our problem space, we all did our own research on imposter syndrome and discussed our findings. Imposter syndrome affects people across the board. However, 46% of people in the age range 18 to 24 struggle with imposter syndrome, which aligns with new grads or people who are newer in their career. But this does affect people across the board. 41% of VPs experience imposter syndrome as well. And through our user interviews, we found a majority of users identified as ethnic and/or gender minorities. And next slide. So let's talk about the market and the TAM, SAM, SOM. So the total available market, we first wanted to start with potentially the career industry or education, but ultimately felt that the mental wellness industry was the appropriate total available market for our product, with 131 billion in 2020. And then the serviceable available market of the self-improvement industry with 31.4 billion, and our serviceable obtainable market, 3% of market research at 30 million. And next slide. But who are we aiming to help? So our personas on the left here, we have Pam Beasley, who is a new grad looking for her first job out of college, struggling to find her first role. Pam's main objective is to manage imposter syndrome in interviews in order to ace a job interview. On the right, we have Jessica, who is a bit more established in her career and is looking to move into a leadership role. Jessica's goal is to manage imposter syndrome in order to obtain upward mobility within finding a leadership role. And our solutions. We landed on 3 main solutions based on our how might we statements. The first being the profile, which would allow users to identify their strengths. The gremlin, which answers the question, how might we boost the confidence of career transitioners? The gremlin is a way to zoom out and separate oneself from unfavorable traits to look at and improve them with a more objective rather than judgmental view. And then the game plan, which solves our how might we improve users' communication during interviews and allow them to plan out exactly how to tame their imposter syndrome.
Hey everybody, my name is Neha. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a product manager on Minty Fresh. So I'm going to jump into some of our constraints. So you can see that our constraints were just like the other teams. We don't have a backend, which does help our scope, But that means we can't save information. So how do we take care of that? We also try to use ChatGPT for one of our initial ideas, but we realized that we can't use a generative AI because it costs money. So that's one of the things, but I'm glad we researched it ahead of time. As Juliet said before, time. We're all we're all doing this volunteer wise, but we really wanted to enjoy ourselves and make sure that the team worked together. And we're a team of juniors. Most of the team is new to this. They're career transitioners themselves. That's why we really connected to this tool that we're creating. So one of the things that really helped us define how to develop our product for Untether was really spending time on our scope. So we spend a lot of time on like, what is our hamburger versus our filet mignon? So we try to make sure that, okay, we have to make sure that this is accessible. We have to make sure that the onboarding process is easy to understand. We have to make sure that people actually, when they come into the tool, they understand what is the gremlin, what is the persona, and why is it even there? One things that we really liked when we were talking all together is the feelings wheel. A lot of people talk about the feeling. They're like, oh, I'm sad, I'm this, but it's helpful to have more words to kind of help define it. You'll understand why a little bit later when we show the tool. And we want to make sure that they feel good when using it. Some filet mignon stuff, we just want to get some more fun technology in there. So like, can we have the different gremlin types? Can we have a more personalized way where we utilize the person's answers? And also develop a star methodology for users, since that's what is asked for when we go into interviews. So we also spent a lot of time using retrospectives to learn and grow from our sprints. So what we noticed was like in the beginning, we weren't communicating enough. Okay, how do we manage that? We also realized that design and the developers were kind of not matching up. Design was moving a little bit faster than developers, so how do we kind of make sure that that doesn't get messed up? And there was some misunderstanding of the screens. So how do we kind of solve for that? We started having more meetings. So each team had their own, so like the development team met on their own, design team met on their own, and we developed a stand-up schedule to keep people on task. We created a dev-only kind of Figma profile so that the devs, they only look at that, they don't get distracted by all the new changes. And the designers spent a lot of time developing interaction notes. So the design team or the developers better understood, okay, this button does this, and that's why it's moving here. And it helps the dev team when they're looking at this, when they're going through their user stories, to actually develop what's being asked of them. So some of the other issues that we also kind of noticed was confusion about the product process and how to end it. So when we had a major scope change, when we were deciding, okay, we can't use ChatGPT or we can't use a generative AI tool to help develop one of our core ideas that we had for the tool, we had to make a major pivot. So that major pivot allowed us to kind of develop a new game plan idea. That's where that came in. And we also started to have clear expectations for ourselves. So that was helpful. When we kind of go through all of this, how do the users feel, right? So we had 13 user interviews in the first half, and then we had 6 usability interviews in the second half. So in our usability interviews, one of the objectives that we were trying to figure out is, okay, through our entire onboarding process, do we want to send the user once the email of like all the work that they've done one time or 2 times? We want to try to figure out what is the cognitive workload that's kind of happening when they go through the onboarding process, and how do they feel about it? So some of the tasks when we went through the usability interview was show the A/B testing of, okay, this version there's 2 emails, this version there's 1. Can they actually develop a game plan when they look at the tools that we've shared with them? And do they actually complete all the questions? Is there any drop-off points? What are our takeaways? Users just want one email. There was a lot of feedback about the game plan. They need examples. People need to know it's hard to just say, hey, these are all your issues, now fix it. So people need examples. And some users felt that the process was a little long, so we try to condense it. So 10 years / versions later, we have our mobile and our desktop. These files can be shown and they can be used once you kind of jump into our presentation, but we're going to have a demo later. And now it is demo time. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to pass it off to our developer, Savannah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Savannah, a developer on Minty Fresh, along with Natalie and Emily. And I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to give you a quick overview. Awesome. So we started off with our home page here. And to help the user get a better feel, we provided onboarding so they knew exactly what to expect in our app. We start off with their name, what role and industry, and as we move forward, we want to highlight your skills and strength, hard and soft skills. And as we go through, we want you to highlight your past accomplishments because we want to take your past and fuel your future. From here, you created your profile. So as we keep going, you learn about the gremlin and how it's important to stomp down your imposter syndrome. And then we want to provide areas of growth, and this is where the feelings wheel came in. And it provides a list of feelings for you to help identify your feelings at the time. And then we get to your profile page. So all of the information before can help you have a layout so that in your interview, you can actually see all of the information you input and have it emailed to yourself for later use. And I'll pass it back over to Neha.
All right. And I know you guys are being very generous with our time. So I'll just end it here. These are our morals of our 13-week journey that we had together. Communication is key. We had to use all the tools at our disposal. We had to stay within the scope, but be flexible when things had to change. Preparation really goes a long way. We were prepared for each meeting that we had, and each team was meeting on their own to stay on task. And production was collaboration and ego-free. Our team really took feedback together really well. And because of that, we were able to jointly craft solutions that we all felt good about. And that's it for the Minty Fresh squad.